Welcome back to the Paladin Ranking. In part 2, we're going to continue to look at the various Paladin subclasses, the Sacred Oaths. At the end of the video, we'll get a full ranking of them all. Thus far, the Paladin has shown himself to be a fantastic class, full of melee power, a fair amount of divine magic, and some solid role-playing motives. As of yet, I have not seen a Paladin subclass that I wouldn't play. They've all been great, but let's see if that changes with these other ones. And on that note, the Oath of the Crown. This subclass is coming from the Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide, a book that is notorious for its imbalance, providing lots of mediocre and subpar options, yet amongst the riffraff are some incredible gems. Crown Paladins are known as Sentinels, Guardians, and Exemplars, and they are dedicated to a nation, to a monarch, or to a god of law and rulership. They seek to defend civilization, upholding tenets of law, loyalty, courage, and responsibility. Oath spells, 3rd level. The oath spells of the Crown Paladin play into its themes of order, guardianship, and authority. They are all helpful in various situations, and you should get some good use out of them. Channel Divinity, Champion Challenge / Turn the Tide, 3rd level. The two Channel Divinity options are both fairly good. Champion Challenge targets all enemies you choose within 30 feet. Each one who fails a wisdom save cannot willingly move more than 30 feet away from you. Turn the Tide is kind of like a mass healing word, though it's limited to a range of 30 feet and only creatures that have less than half their hit points. Divine Allegiance, 7th level. As a reaction, when a creature within 5 feet of you takes damage, you can take the damage instead, and you cannot reduce or prevent the damage in any way. The real downside of this feature is the mere 5-foot range, which really makes its use limited. You'll likely brew up a strategy with another character so that you can capitalize on this feature, which may end up being a fun tactic, or not. The range of this effect is so small, if only it were greater, this feature would be much better. Unyielding Spirit, 15th level. You have advantage on saving throws against paralyzation and stunning, and that's it. If only this were paired with another minor benefit or broadened into a wider benefit. By itself, it's quite situational. Of course, in those specific circumstances, you'll be really glad that you have it. Exalted Champion, 20th level. As an action, you enter a heightened state for 1 hour. During this time, you have resistance to non-magical weapon attacks, which, at 20th level, a lot of things do have magical weapon attacks, whether they're natural weapons or otherwise. Also, your allies within 30 feet have advantage on death saving throws, so nice, I guess. And you and your allies within 30 feet have advantage on wisdom saving throws, which, again, is a bit situational, but potentially it's a nice extra layer of protection against mind-affecting magic. Despite the 3-in-1 benefits of this feature, it's an underwhelming capstone. So this is what I've come to expect from the Sword Coast book. It's a shame because there are some nice concepts and themes in it, but mechanically, it often hits like a wooden sword or maybe a padded sword. So there we go. I found a Paladin subclass that is subpar. Glad we got this out of the way, so let's move on to Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. Oath of Glory. The Glory Paladin has a short and simple description. They are destined to achieve fame, glory, and divine favor through their epic feats and acts of heroism. The book gives them no common in-world titles, so what would they be known as? Hero Knights? Purple Knights? Star Knights, maybe? Their tenets are actions over words, treat challenges as tests, hone the body, and discipline the soul. Oath spells, 3rd level. The Oath of Glory spells are a mixed bag of different effects. Haste stands out as a great spell for you, though hopefully you can succeed on your concentration checks, melee character. Channel Divinity, Peerless Athlete / Inspiring Smite. The first of these options is a bonus action to use, and for 10 minutes you have advantage on acrobatics and athletics. You can carry, push, lift, and drag twice the normal amount of weight, and your jumps increase by 10 feet. Wow, combo this with the jump spell and you will be jumping like 50 feet off the ground. The second option is also a bonus action, which you can use after smiting a creature. When you do so, you can distribute temporary hit points between yourself and allies, which does scale with level. I really like these two options. I love the terrain, challenges, and explorations one, and temporary hit points as a bonus action is generally a good thing. Aura of Alacrity, 7th level. Unlike the other auras that we've seen with the Paladin, this one is a much shorter range, starting at only 5 feet and increasing to merely 10 feet at 18th level. The aura provides you with a passive bonus of plus 10 feet to your walking speed, and any ally who starts their turn within the aura gets the speed bonus till the end of turn. Being able to move faster is always nice, though only plus 10 feet at 7th level isn't all too strong. I'm not quite sure why the designers reduced the size of this aura as compared to the typical ones we see. The effect isn't any stronger than any other Paladin aura out there. Glorious Defense, 15th level. When you or an ally within 10 feet is hit by an attack, you can use your reaction to give a bonus to AC equal to your Charisma modifier. If this causes the attack to miss, you make a melee attack against the attacker. You are limited to a number of uses equal to your Charisma modifier per day, which at this point is going to be like between +3 to +5. This is something of a mixture between the fighter maneuver's parry and riposte, with a bit of the protection fighting style in there too. A good feature all around, though for 15th level, a feature better be at least this good. Living Legend, 20th level. As a bonus action, you empower yourself with legends for a minute. During this time, you have advantage on all charisma checks. Once per turn, when you miss with a weapon attack, you can make it automatically hit. And when you fail a saving throw, you can expend your reaction to re-roll it. You can use Living Legend just once per day, or you can regain it by expending a 5th level spell slot. Much how I felt with Glorious Defense, it's a solid and useful feature, but for 20th level, a feature really needs, at a minimum, to be this powerful. Oath of Glory all around is a good subclass. You can't go wrong picking it. It does have a kind of generalized hodgepodge feel to it, which, in contrast, most other oaths have more vivid, well-defined themes. Oath of the Watchers. By swearing this oath, you pledge to keep a vigil over the realm in case of extraplanar threats. Demons, devils, aberrations, and even elementals are some of the most typical existential threats in D&D. Ultra-aggressive forces that, one-on-one, greatly overpower typical human soldiers. And from time to time, they'll make incursions into the world in an attempt to dominate or destroy everything. Other extraplanar threats could potentially include creatures like evil fae, extraplanar undead from the Shadowfell or the negative energy plane, extraplanar constructs, War of the Machines style, or even celestials led by an evil god. The tenets of a Watcher Paladin are vigilance, loyalty, and discipline. Like the Glory Paladin, we unfortunately don't get any in-world names to refer to this kind of Paladin. Sentinel was already used in Oath of the Crown, though it really fits here too. Maybe just Watcher? Barrier Knight? Gatekeeper, perhaps? Oath Spells, 3rd level. The Watcher Oath spells fit the theme of the subclass quite well. They focus on warding, detecting, revealing, observing, countering, banishing. It's a nice list with some interesting options and utility that Paladins don't usually get access to. Channel Divinity, Watcher's Will / Abjure the Extraplanar, 3rd level. Watcher's Will is an action to use, and for a minute, you and a number of allies equal to your Charisma modifier have advantage on Intelligence, Wisdom, and Charisma saving throws. It's a great defensive option in the right situation, though it does take your action and only lasts a minute. Abjure the Extraplanar does what you would expect. You can turn extraplanar creatures, specifically aberrations, celestials, elementals, fae, and fiends. You can turn them for up to a minute. The turning option, just like what we've seen with Turn Undead, can be incredibly effective, sometimes even enough to sway the course of the whole battle in your party's favor. You can focus on just fighting one creature at a time while the others are fleeing or hiding from you. And with this one, it turns far more types of creatures than Turn Undead. And unlike certain undead creatures, I don't think that there are any extraplanar creatures that have turning resistance. Aura of the Sentinel, 7th level. Hey, look at that, the class even refers to itself as a Sentinel. You and allies within 10 feet of you gain a bonus to initiative checks equal to your proficiency bonus, extending to 30 feet at 18th level. So this means +3 to initiative at level 7, then +4 at level 9, +5 at level 13, and +6 at level 17. It's a decent feature that will give your party a slight edge in battles. Vigilant Rebuke, 15th level. Whenever you or an ally within 30 feet succeeds on an intelligence, wisdom, or charisma saving throw, you can spend your reaction to deal 2d8 plus your charisma mod force damage to the creature that forced the saving throw. This feature is definitely situational. I wish the effect was a little bit stronger, but it does combo nicely with your channel divinity, if you happen to have spent the action to use Watcher's Will. I expected more out of a 15th level feature. Mortal Bulwark, 20th level. As a bonus action, you manifest a spark of divine power for a minute. During this time, you have true sight of 120 feet, advantage on attacks against aberrations, celestials, elementals, fae, and fiends, and whenever you hit a creature with an attack, it must succeed on a charisma save or be banished back to its native plane. You can use Mortal Bulwark once per day, or you can regain it by expending a 5th level spell slot. This is potentially a spectacular feature. It does have a couple of downsides if you're not fighting extraplanar creatures, or if you are fighting them but on their own plane, the feature does a lot less. At 20th level, you just might be fighting that Demon Lord directly in his lair in the Abyss. I like the Watcher Paladin from what I've read. It has a solid theme and its features play into the theme and the flavor pretty good. A couple of the features could be a bit better, but I think it's a good choice of subclass. Now we proceed on to our final Paladin subclass, which is actually found in the Dungeon Master's Guide, as it's generally more suited for villains. The Oathbreaker. As the name states, this Paladin has broken his sacred oath. He's an evil-aligned individual who no longer acts according to virtues and tenets, but rather follows the dark side. The book doesn't name any colloquial terms for the Oathbreaker, so maybe people would call them anti-paladins, black knights, blackguards, or slayers. Oathbreaker spells, 3rd level. Unsurprisingly, the Oathbreaker spells are a nasty lot, full of hellfire, madness, darkness, necromancy, curses, and blights. Like with all the oaths, these additional spells not only give you more versatility in your magic arsenal, but they play into the themes and flavor of the subclass. Channel Divinity, Control Undead / Dreadful Aspect, 3rd level. The first option allows for you to mentally dominate an undead creature if it fails a wisdom saving throw, though it must have a CR lower than your level. The second option is a 30-foot range fear effect that frightens creatures, and they cannot make saves to free themselves unless they get more than 30 feet away from you. Both are really strong options in the right circumstance. Aura of Hate, 7th level. You and your allies within 10 feet gain a bonus to weapon damage rolls equal to your charisma modifier, and the range goes up to 30 feet at 18th level. It's really straightforward, it's very potent. With this, your damage and the damage of your weapon-wielding allies goes up substantially. I do have to question why this is called Aura of Hate. The effect has nothing to do with hatred, and it could work for any kind of paladin. It could be called Aura of Righteousness or Aura of Might. So the name and the choice to give it to just the Oathbreaker is a bit irksome. Supernatural Resistance, 15th level. You gain resistance to all non-magical bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing. Period. Straight up. At this high of level, a fair amount of creatures deal magic weapon damage, but not all of them, like not dragons, or purple worms, or giants, or the Tarask, and it's a passive benefit that you always have. Compare it to the Crown Paladin, who has to wait all the way till 20th level, and spend an action to activate the resistance, and it goes away after an hour. You can only do it once per day. Also, why does an Oathbreaker gain supernatural resistance? Of course, you could create a good story reason why the dark power the anti-paladin sought gives him this resistance, but you could also create such a story or flavor text for any of the classes. So, kind of like what I said with the Aura of Hate, it's a powerful effect, but it's not exactly appropriate or fitting as to why this subclass would get it over the others. Dreadlord, 20th level. Once per long rest as an action, you can create a 30-foot aura of shadows. The aura lasts for 1 minute. Whenever an enemy frightened by you starts its turn in the aura, it takes 4d10 psychic damage, which combos with your dreadful aspect. You and your allies within the aura are obscured by the shadows, which imposes disadvantage on enemy attacks. Furthermore, once per turn as a bonus action, you can make the shadows attack a creature who's inside the aura. This is a melee spell attack, and on a hit deals 3d10 plus your charisma mod, Necrotic. This is one of the best capstone features I have seen yet. It's flavorful, has 3 different effects that work together and combines with your channel divinity, and it's powerful. The Oathbreaker is a very, very strong subclass. It seems designed to be intentionally stronger than the other paladin options. I suppose the idea was that the DM could use this to create a powerful villain NPC. But I think this was a bad decision. There's a number of things about it that don't work for me. For one, a DM can always make an NPC or a monster more powerful. That's no trouble at all. We don't need the subclass features to break out and go above and beyond the standard. With the Oathbreaker, the DM is put into an awkward position of deciding between bad choices. Either no one can play an Oathbreaker because it's too strong, which then is prohibiting and repressing the players from this potentially very interesting character story, or the DM has to reduce the power of some of the features, which is just a lame thing to do in general, and I only recommend doing that if it's absolutely necessary to prevent something that's game-breaking. No one likes a micromanaging control freak DM. Or the DM allows the Oathbreaker subclass, but then it can outshine the other options. It should have been designed on the same power level as the other oaths. It also puts me in an awkward spot with this ranking. Should the top position of the paladin ranking be given to one who broke his oath, that pursues the dark side like some kind of Sith Lord? I suppose there might be a different kind of balance with the Oathbreaker in that if you're an evil character, those NPCs and people in the D&D world that uphold virtue and justice are going to come for you sooner or later. This isn't stated in the subclass, it's not even really implied, but the general sense I've always gotten in D&D is that, much like in the real world, no one really gets away with anything, not forever. And besides, those whose corruption and sin runs deep enough, hell awaits. I'm gonna have to think about this one for a moment, so while I'm doing that, I want to briefly revisit the Vengeance Paladin. Some viewers pointed out on the first video that the capstone feature, Avenging Angel, actually lasts for 1 hour, not 1 minute. That does make a difference. Perhaps it will last for 2 or even 3 encounters. Maybe you'll have an opportunity to spin the action before an encounter even begins. But in the end, it's an hour of a 60-foot fly speed, plus a 30-foot aura that can affect enemies only 1 time each, and only if they're not immune to the frightened condition. It only lasts for up to 1 minute or until they take damage. All in all, I'd say it's about the combined equivalent of a 5th level spell that doesn't require concentration. It's good in and of itself, but at 20th level it's just medium. This is the epitome of a paladin path, the ability that you've worked your whole life to achieve. A situational 5th level spell that has effects which everyone has had access to since character level 5. The 7th level Relentless Avenger feature I rated at F tier because it rarely comes up, as opportunity attacks are not very common, and the effect of moving up to half your speed is a rather poor payoff for something that's so situational. If it were a 1st level feature, I would still think it was lacking. It needs something else to combo off, like the subclass is missing some other feature that gives you more frequent op attacks or lets you utilize it in some better way. That said, I did mention that I recognize how this feature can combo really well with the Polearm Master and Sentinel feats. Those 2 feats are already so good, and together they create an awesome combo that can potentially lock a melee opponent out of being able to attack you at all. If we factor in Relentless Avenger, these feats get even better. So upon further reflection, I just can't rate this feature as F tier because it combos so well with general feats. So I'm going to move it up to D tier, representing how it is questionable and it only works if used in combination with certain other things, but it has the potential to be tapped into for something that is pretty great. This brings us now to our final ranking of the Paladin subclasses. It was difficult reaching a conclusion because so many of the options are really good, but here we go. I'm putting Oathbreaker in 2 different positions in this ranking. If you are playing a campaign that does not allow the Oathbreaker, it is last place, as even a subpar option is better than something you can't even play. I don't blame DMs for not allowing this class or for running campaigns that don't allow evil parties, just to be clear on that. In 8th place is Oath of the Crown, which is not terrible, and it does have a fitting theme, but the features are just lacking. The 7th level spot goes to Oath of Glory. This oath is a fine choice, it's good, though it could use a little bit more identity and a touch better features. At the 6th slot, we have the Oath of Devotion, which moved down ever so slightly from the semi-final ranking, but again, it's effectively on par with the 5th and 4th place in the long run. It's a great option for a classic Holy Knight. In 5th is the Watcher Paladin, with some really nice features and a planar Guardian theme. 4th goes to the Vengeance Paladin, which moved up a tiny tick. Overall, it's neck and neck with Devotion and Watcher, but it does get its better features earlier on, which I consider an advantage. 3rd place is for Oath of the Conquest, a powerhouse subclass with a hardcore lawful neutral or even lawful evil theme. Remaining in 2nd place is Oath of Redemption, a fresh new take on a paladin who seeks to bring peace and atonement. And staying in 1st place is Oath of the Ancients, a wonderfully versatile paladin with both the Holy Knight and Nature Guardian themes going on. However, if you are playing in an evil party or the DM allows you to play an evil character, the Oathbreaker mechanically will be the best. It will actually take the top place, smashing its way ahead of the others. Despite the problems and complications that the Oathbreaker can bring, I really do like the concept of it as a character. I like the idea of an arc of this fallen paladin who turns to the dark side for a time, but in the end finds redemption. Maybe he even switches over to Oath of the Redemption. Or perhaps he remains evil for the whole campaign, and at the very end has an epiphany and a wondrous conversion to good that saves everything at the very end in a Darth Vader style. The main problem that I see with this is that the Oathbreaker gives us no incentive to ever give it up. Its class features stay great all the way throughout, and the capstone is so tempting. It's a rare moment in D&D when a player gives up a more powerful option for a weaker one, even if the so-called weaker one brings amazing storytelling and character building. The Paladin is a fantastic class. It's all around full of so many great options, with only a couple exceptions like the Oath of the Crown and the problems involved with the Oathbreaker. You really cannot go wrong whichever oath you pick. They're all great, and I would personally be interested in playing them all. So a big thumbs up to Wizards of the Coast and 5e D&D for doing right by the Paladin. Even though I personally identify with the Bard, the Paladin is not far from my heart. I don't know if you can see that or not, but I feel it. Its themes are dedication and courage and purpose. Those are also goals of my own. They're at least things that I strive to in some way, I hope to achieve, and also to inspire in others. So once again, thank you all for watching. Do not forget to subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you in the next video, and may your adventures be many.